So hi, everyone. If you are just arriving, the props that we'll be using are blocks. If you have them, you can grab a blanket, towels, cushions, a bolster, whatever you happen to have. If it is particularly chilly where you are, you might want to have some socks nearby. Feel free to start with them on. Sometimes they are a little slippery unless you have traction on the bottom. So take a moment and think about the seat that might be comfortable for you. It could be, maybe no seat is comfortable and you want to lie on your back, but you're welcome to kneel, to sit in a chair, to sit on a balance ball. So if kneeling is an option, we might do that on a block or on a cushion. And I think I see something in the chat, so let me get a little closer here. Was there an earthquake? Yes, I actually was in this room and I looked around and the dog I knew was in the other room. And I thought it was really, really strange that she was that itchy that she could shake the house enough that I would feel it a room over. And then I saw the information that it was an earthquake. But yes, I definitely did feel that. I don't know if everybody else felt that. So we'll go ahead and find that seat. Again, kneeling if it's an option. And something to think about, we'll revisit kneeling a little later, potentially in practice. And if this is just not comfortable for you for whatever reason, sometimes it is the ankles, the tops of the feet, and sometimes it's the soles of the feet too. And it might be something else entirely. But just in case it is the ankles for you, I want to give you a couple of options. I'm sitting on one block at its lowest setting, but you can always, of course, double up 2 blocks, go higher. That's going to give you a little more room. You can also give the ankles, if there's a big gap between the top of the foot, the ankle, and the floor, you can find a way to roll the blanket. I'm just going to hold this up and it would go down on the ground and that top of your foot would go on top of the roll if you need it. So feel free to try that out. So in reasons to try it, maybe it's just really intense on the top of the foot to have the foot pointed like that, but maybe it creates kind of a cramping in the sole of the foot and you might want to try that. We're all different. And just take a few moments to rock in, find that seat. And if you do happen to be in the kneel, and if you are sitting on a block, the block provides us with an opportunity here to notice the sits bones, those ischial tuberosities. Yes, we'll just call them sits bones. And if you're not sure what they are, if you've ever sat in a hard chair, bleachers, you probably felt them, or take the top of your hand, slide it under your seat. Whew, and when you feel that bone kind of press into your hand, that's where it is. Those of us that are very back bendy, we can all just do this together. Take a moment and rock forward. So it's sort of like tilting your pelvis forward, your belly button pointing down, and we'll have a hollow in our back. And then go the other way, kind of like you're in a rocking chair and you're taking it really far back. You could also maybe think of cat pose a little bit. So now we're rounding in the back. And then just give yourself a few moments to play with the rocking chair a little bit and try to find that spot that feels like it's just right in the middle. Shoulders stacking over hips. Hands may rest in the lap. The eyes may rest softly closed. Consider spinning palms to face up. Take a deep inhale. We may be audibly releasing, sighing it out. Letting those exhales go through the mouth. Feel free to try that a time or several more. Full deep inhales. Releasing. Letting go. Bring movement into your fingers. And then invite the arms to float up, and we might just find a little movement in the elbows, beginning to circle the wrists and circle wrists in second direction. And maybe the toes are coming along for the ride. It happens from time to time. And then pick a side, it doesn't matter which, and just reach out through that arm. Turn the head, look in that direction, find a little nod, mobilizing fingers. Gather that elbow back in, let that hand land. Breathing, we may circle the shoulder. Maybe you're a wood lugger or chopper, or maybe you've been skiing using poles. Let's circle that arm in the second direction. How is the shoulder feeling on that side? Wobble up. Now, the side that you went to, let's lean the head in the opposite direction. So we're leaning the ear towards its shoulder, maybe a little nod of the head. Let the head rise. And just take a moment. Maybe we feel a little longer on that side. So second side, when you're ready, extend the arm, turn the nose in that direction. Fingers may move, the head may nod. We're definitely breathing. How does the wrist feel, the forearm? Gathering information. Maybe we throw in a few wrist twirls while we're at it. Maybe this is the tighter side, the mousing side. And let's gather in. Let that arm come down. Invite that shoulder to circle. Maybe you're a one-sided wood lugger. And go the other way. Circle, second direction. And then letting that second ear find its shoulder, giving ourselves a little nod. Letting the chin move towards the center of the chest. We might find a little lull, a little movement of the head side to side. Roll the shoulders forward, invite the shoulders to rise. Let the shoulders work their way down and back. Give yourself any little wiggles that feel right for you. So we've been in this kneeling position for a moment. Let's go ahead and shift off the prop to one side, slide those feet forward. And maybe now is the time where we're getting rid of the socks, so we're a little less slippy, slidey, potentially on the mat. But maybe we want to keep a blanket nearby for the knees. So a little extra padding for the knees. We'll come to hands and knees. This time, instead of pointing the feet like we did before, we'll go the other way. We'll tuck the toes so the ankles are in that dorsiflexion. And we're very gently shifting back. You're listening to your toes. We might want to reach back with our fingers and create a little more spacing between the toes there. Little shift side to side. And then let's come on forward. Find that hands and knee position. Send the right foot back, pitching back through the heel. So now we're not only getting into the foot, but the back of the lower leg, chin towards chest, head may nod. Release that knee down. And let's reach that second heel back. Maybe a little nod, circle nod of the head. And releasing the knee down. So building on all of that, we might start to shift the hips back towards the heels. So no block here this time potentially. You don't have to come this far back. You're listening to the tops of your feet, your ankles. Maybe that is enough. So we may sit up a little taller. Ooh, breathing. If you spend time maybe on your weekends in downhill ski boots, kind of stiff, just checking in, how is that feeling? And maybe you don't, and the tops of the ankles are feeling super mobile. If that's you, walk the hands back. We'll go a little further. We might start to feel it in the thighs here. And we may lift a knee, so just one shin off the ground, and we might give that leg a little wobble. Let that leg come down, and the second shin may rise, and we might find a little wobble, releasing down. So let's make our way back up, and one more time. Pitch back through one heel and then the other. So adding on, right heel is the one that we send back. the left foot sways out to the left and the right heel travels to the left. So I'm going to turn my head away from the camera so you're listening to your neck. You can absolutely keep that right hand on the ground. We might lift it in a moment, but before we do, let's move back to the middle. And we may roll that right heel towards the right. So that outer right hip is rolling down to the ground. You don't have to pick the hands up at all. So we'll sway back to the left. Maybe it feels good to lift that right hand up. We might even decide to reach that right arm up in the air. We might even decide to take that arm up and overhead, arcing the ribs up towards the ceiling. Let the hand come down and we'll roll right heel towards that long edge of the mat, right hip down. Let's find center and take a moment, sit back and just get off the wrists for a moment so we can just flex, like we're clustering the fingers. Maybe we like putting our hands on the ribs. Maybe we like putting our hands on the thighs or just a self-massage. So that second side, we may find hands and knees, send that left heel back, swing the right foot to the right and left heel to the right. And you can absolutely keep that hand down the first time, noticing how this feels through the belly, through the hip. We'll come back to center and we'll take it the other way. So we'll roll the heel and that right foot pivots. So just take a moment, side to side. So remember, we're keeping that leg extended. And we're shifting, swaying, rolling the hip down. And if you decide to, we might lift that left arm up in the air. Make sure you're breathing. We may take that arm up and overhead, go for that lift, that length. Maybe we lean it back. We might roll it in a little bit. We'll eventually release the hand, navigate the feet, and maybe you want the tops of the feet on the cushion instead of the knees. Listening to the wrists, we may circle, swirl the wrists around. And we'll think about making our way up to standing. So we might tuck the toes, shift back, perhaps through a squat. So we may just walk those hands back. Feel free to grab a couple of blocks here to help us come to stand. So we can always push down, step off any extra padding that we're on. Tipping our way into a standing forward fold. So we may find some shifts, side to side. And perhaps we're tipping in, draping in, nodding the head, circle nodding the head. Stretch the jaw. Let's put a little bit of bend in the knees, forearms onto thighs. Let the hips sink. Listen to those knees. Rooting to rise. We'll come up to stand, shift it out, take a little walk. How are the thighs feeling? So as we find our way to stand, let's bring the feet together, hands on the thighs or right on the kneecaps, circling the knees around. And let's circle second direction. And we'll bring ourselves up to stand. I'm going to turn sideways to you for a moment. Put a little bend back in the knees. Bring the knuckles, the hands onto the low back. And we may just bend and extend the knees as the hands move up and down. Those strong muscles on the back body there. We'll come all the way up to stand. Watch out for any trip hazards. Swaying a little side to side with or without knee bend. We may add in the arms. With the arms knocking the belly, the back. We're breathing. We may gently knock the chest. You can choose chest, belly. You might add in some sounding, some vibrational sounding to help with the lungs, especially if you've been feeling congested. You can just laugh, that'll help vibrate too. And then let's slowly slide those feet back together. Perhaps if you're a mat or blocks are kind of all over the mat, just flip them at one end. Let's bend the palms to face forward and invite the arms up in the air. And with an exhale, tipping, find your forward fold. Let's have right foot forward, extend that left leg back. Give yourself a little shift forward, a little shift back, a little front of the thighs. Maybe those left toes, sole of the left foot. Let the hips rise, slide that right foot forward, step left foot forward, looking out, and exhale, tipping in. Let's make our way halfway up. Walk the hands, block hands over to the right, little bend in the right knee, rolling left hip back. We'll bring it back to the middle. Exhale, tipping in. Inhale, rise halfway up, left foot forward, right leg is the reaching back leg. Maybe a little shift forward, back. Breathing. Ooh, hello, front of the right thigh. Maybe those right toes, sole of the right foot. Let the hips rise so that you can perhaps slide that left foot back. Load, step into the left leg, step that right foot forward, looking out and tipping in. Let's inhale, rise halfway up, walking hands or block hands over to the left, bending that left knee, rolling right hip back. We may find a little nod of the head and tipping back in, folding in. Put a little bend in the knees, root to rise, circle the arms all the way up. Thumbs to forehead, thumbs to heart. So if you have a lot of layers on and you're warming up, maybe now's the time to take a top layer off or so. Inhale, circle the arms up. And as we exhale, forward fold. Inhale, heart rising. We have that right foot forward. We're navigating the left leg back. Shift forward, shift back. At any point, you can put the back knee down if you like. We may drop that left hand, maybe heel toe right foot wider to the right, right hand, right knee. Perhaps right arm rising. Reaching into our twist. And cycling that top hand down. This might be a nice place again to keep those blocks, even slide that right foot back so we can load the right leg, step left foot alongside right, tipping in. We'll move right to the second side. So we'll lift partway up. We'll keep that left foot forward, right leg reaching back leg. Take a few moments, a low lunge, we're visiting it again. Right hand wide to the right, maybe heel toe left foot a little wider. Left hand, left knee. Perhaps left arm rising, reaching. And cycling that top hand down. We may want to find two blocks and slide that left foot back. Make it a little easier to load that left leg. Step the right foot forward, tipping in. Consider planting the hands, walking back to dog, where we may pedal the feet, right foot, left foot. We may tip the head a little side to side. Rocking forward briefly to plank. Let the knees land. Sliding down to the belly. We may crisscross the forearms and rest the brow. You may prefer to turn your nose to one side. Feel yourself breathing against the ground. Let the eyes rest. The heels may roll out moderately, right to the right, left to the left. We may just give the legs a little gentle rock, walking the elbows in, lifting up into our Sphinx. Maybe our Sphinx is still. Maybe our Sphinx is wandering. Wandering to the right, chin to the right. Wandering through the middle and over to the second side. Make sure you're breathing. Let's find the middle, and maybe we noticed one side had a little more sensation on the other. So the invitation is to go in the direction first that your body's kind of asking for. So we might place a block or even a big squishy ball, like one of those sponge balls, over to the side you've chosen. So you'll actually be lengthening the opposite side. So if you're going to the left first, that right side body, front body, that is the lengthening side. And you may be using that prop as a cushion, as a pillow. We might press away. So if you're leaning to the left, you might extend the right arm out to the right on the diagonal. You might even hold on to the mat or just press into the ground, pressing away from that hand. Breathing. So we'll find our way back to the middle with a little wander, little leans. And we might be finding a cushion on that second side of the mat and just starting to approach it. Maybe this side's going to be very different. Maybe we're not coming quite as low. So we might be putting that pillow into place. We may be pressing into that opposite hand, lengthening away. Breathing. Very gently, let's find our way back to the middle and consider turning the head to one side, resting an ear on the ground, letting the shoulders drape. Let the body sigh. Let the cheeks drape. Slide the hands forward. Gentle low cobra, rise partway up. Turning your head to second side, resting on a cheek. Sweeping the arms back. Planting the hands, rising up, starting to roll back towards a child's pose. Now, maybe you're taking a block with you to support the brow. So pressing back, you might choose a wide-kneed child's pose, the brow supported by the ground or a prop. The elbows could be bent. You may prefer arms fully extended. And we may take a moment with eyes closed to find a tiny yes nod, massaging the brow. And then roll towards one side. And slowly roll to the second side. And we might again eventually find the middle with a tiny yes nod or drawing circles. Let the body sigh. So we'll start to think about rising up, bringing those knees back together. And we might find the blanket again, padding for the knees, and you may want a couple blocks under the hands. So I'll demo with the blocks, and maybe you're not using blocks. So I have my blocks on the medium setting, and I'm bringing the hands, block hands, over to the left. So I have a runway. When I extend that right leg, bend the knee, and step that right foot forward between the hands. So back knee is down. I have a blanket under that knee, sinking into that deeper crescent style lunge. Maybe there's a little rock to the right towards the little toe side of the foot. You don't have to stay there or rock back to center. Little shifts. And if this is the perfect spot, please feel free to stay longer. The hips may navigate back, heel toe that right foot between the hands, scooch or slide the right foot forward. And perhaps we rock back on the heel. And it may be a little soon, a little sudden. So maybe we lunge, bend back into that front knee, like we're warming up. Some cold play, shifting forward, shifting back. We might spin blocks up higher and find a point where we're holding. We may rotate the leg, the toes a little more right. That heel is rooted, hugging the little toe side of the foot back. And we'll eventually land the foot and perhaps walk the hands up the thigh. So we're pressing the hands into the thigh and we might lean back a little bit. So this shouldn't be troublesome or bothersome for that back knee. We want enough padding there that this is tolerable. And this might be enough in that back leg, but maybe we lift back leg arm. We might find a little more length. We may move the fingers, nod the head. We may grab that left wrist, give the arm a little boost, and perhaps we tip lean over to the right. And we'll come back up through the middle. Take all the time. Let the hands come down. Find your blocks, and we'll move the blocks or just the hands back inside the right foot, heel toe, right foot wide. And maybe just sweep the leg back or keep heel toeing until you're ready to sit back, perhaps on a block, maybe just kneeling. Let the body have a little rest. And then second side. So we'll move both hands towards the right. Send that left leg back. We're bending the knees, stepping that left foot forward, and maybe walking the hands further forward. Maybe a sway of the hips side to side, maybe rocking towards the little toe side of that left foot. Take your time breathing. Working out the cobwebs. Letting the hips start to slide back. And maybe we know we're going to want to go back and forth a few times before we fine tune it. We may be heel toeing that left foot between the blocks, between the hands, sliding the foot forward, perhaps rocking back and holding. We may lift the blocks higher. We can roll the toes, roll the whole leg really a little more to the left. Hips moving back, but maybe we continue to bend and extend that knee. We may find a little shift, a little wobble of the hips, hugging that heel back. Take your time. We may lower the blocks, move them back inside the foot, heel toe, keep heel toeing. If and when you're ready, we might lift or just slide that leg back, sitting back into our kneeling seat. Feel free to come forward so the tops of the feet are on the padding if you like. Hands may be on hips. Elbows might move back, but notice where the head goes. Are the head and shoulders moving forward? Roll the shoulders back. Try to keep the crown of the head high. You're welcome to weave the fingers together, or we might grab a strap or a towel, whatever you have handy. And there's a couple ways we can grip the strap. So go ahead and grab your strap and just notice, are your palms facing backwards behind you? Or are the palms facing in? And you might try both and see if your shoulders have a preference at this moment. And releasing that, let that go. Consider bringing your strap or your towel forward, or it could just be pretend. You can pretend to have a strap. Watch out for strap buckles, the hard edges of the strap. If you have a real strap, let your hands slide about an arm's distance apart. Take the strap overhead and start to bring the strap behind your back. And maybe the hands need to slide a little wider apart. We might continue cycling down. You're listening to your shoulders, your chest. We'll inhale to rise up. Let the hands come forward and down. We'll make a little readjustment so the hands may start a little bit closer together this time. We'll rise up. Feel free to slide those hands apart when needed, bending the elbows this time. So both elbows bending. Ooh, wowza. Maybe the chest has something to say about this. And then let the arms rise back up, tipping to one side. So we're going for a side bend. You can slide the hands farther apart if you like on the strap. We'll come back up to the middle and take it to the second side. Then we'll come all the way back up. Let that strap cycle down. Gather the strap together and maybe circle the wrists. So before we challenge the balance a little bit more, we're going to try this on our back, and you can always choose to stay there. If you want a little more padding, please feel free to unfurl your blanket, and maybe it's more about insulation than padding. So let's make our way onto back body and rock the knees right into the chest. Give yourself that little rock side to side. Maybe it turns into circles. And then let the left foot land and the right leg rise. Flex, point the foot, twirl the ankle around, twirl the ankle in the second direction. Then as we bend the knee, going perhaps for a bite, it could be a wound towel, an arm extender around the shin, hands around the shin or hands behind the thigh. And we might slide that left heel out and pretend perhaps that you're standing on the left foot. So the left ankle is active. Full breathing. We may be widening that right thigh. Maybe finding little jostles, little shakes. And then bring both knees back in. Give yourself that rock side to side, shifting through the hips. Maybe starting to pedal, circle the knees, rocking through the sacrum. Let that right foot land, and the left leg is rising. Flexing, pointing, flexing, pointing. Slow circles. Looking for the good stuff. Go the other way. And then bending that knee, rocking that knee in, finding your bind on this side. And maybe we're sliding that right heel out and keeping the right foot active. And we might find that little rock, that little jostle. Sighing, breathing into the belly, maybe the thighs going a little bit wider. And this time, let's draw that right leg in, grab hold of both ankles and let the knees widen. So the feet don't have to be together. There can be a pretty big gap between the soles of the feet. And we may find those little wobbles, those little rocks through the hips. And then sliding the hands back onto the knees. Let's go for full frog circles with the legs. So knees go wide, away, reversing direction. And then we'll take a moment, and if it feels comfortable for your back, we may rock forward and back. And maybe this is not for you today. Feel free to just rock to your side if it doesn't feel good to rock up and down. And we may eventually, using a little momentum there, rock yourself up to a seat. And we'll just wobble a little side to side. Hello, hips in this cross-legged seat. We can have one foot forward, one shin in front of the other, rocking a bit forward, maybe find a little wobble. We can take it back. You can always stack a bolster here, tipping in. We may support the brow. We may take the thumb knuckles to the eyebrows. Find that centermost portion of the eyebrows and very gently slide the thumb knuckles out. And we'll slowly, slowly rise on up and trade the foot or the shin that you have in front. And we might just take a few rocks, a few wobbles to find the spot where we can be for these next few breaths. Maybe that includes tipping forward. You can take your blocks higher or lower as needed on this side. Perhaps supporting the brow, perhaps using the thumbs this time to squeegee the brow. And we may take our fingerprints to the temples, circling at the temples. We may come down along the bridge of the nose, sweeping down with a finger or a couple of fingerprints, and we may find a spot, hook the cheekbones over the finger. Breathing, and then find your way to the hinge of the jaw, circling, maybe using your knuckles instead of fingerprints. We may open and close the mouth. And then we'll take a moment to rock all the way up, extending both legs. Give a little wiggle, plant the feet, scooch the hips forward, and let's pinwheel the knees over to one side. So we're twisting, we're rotating, lengthening one side, sinking into it. You are welcome to stay longer. Take your time. Bring the knees back to the middle. Let the knees fall to the second side. And slowly finding our way back to the middle. So as we find our way to center, we might grab a couple of blocks. We may press down into the blocks, cross the feet, and guide ourselves back up to a standing position. Take your time, and please feel free to come use a wall if you like to help with balance. So we may take the right foot back, toes tucked under. We might bend the knees and grab hold of the right foot, standing tall, trying to point that knee down towards the ground. Releasing the foot, second side. Please feel free to come to a chair or a wall. We'll step that second foot back. We may bend both knees to push off and perhaps hold on to that second foot, pointing the knee down to the ground. Maybe the opposite arm is rising. And releasing that hand down, shift it out. And of course, that reminded me what I forgot on the other side. So we'll go ahead, grab our blocks, left foot forward, right leg is back. And we're climbing up that left thigh and leaning back. So that might have felt a little tighter on one side than the other, given that we didn't do this on this side. And we may reach that right arm up in the air. We may grab the wrist and we may tip lean over to the left. Maybe pressing those hands, heels of the hands a little bit forward. Take your time. We'll find our way back to the middle, find the blocks. Press down into that left foot. We're returning to a standing position. And if it's easier to just grab your strap again while you're in forward fold, please do. So we'll just bend the knees, come back to stand. I'm going to get a little closer to the camera here. So if you are using an actual yoga strap, they have a buckle and you're going to make a loop like that of a dog leash. And you want usually a pretty long strap for this. I think this one is an 8-foot strap, but they come even longer. So please feel free to use a wall to help with balance. Whoops, that is the end of the strap. Watch out for those metal buckles. So we're going to capture the right foot in the loop, in the dog leash handle. And then point the elbow up towards the ceiling. Now watch out for that edge of your strap, those sharp metal edges. We may take the left hand onto the strap as well. And let me step more this way so you can see the arms, see the elbows. So we might keep a lot of bend in the elbows. It's not about bringing the hands down to the foot. We're letting the arms rise. You could have more bend. You may have less bend, reaching the hands higher up, closer up to the ceiling. Slowly, slowly let that right foot slide down. And we'll trade sides. So we'll take a few moments to lasso the left foot and point the left elbow up towards the ceiling. Again, watch out for any hard edges on your strap. We may hold the tail with both hands and let the hands slide up higher. Perhaps the gaze is rising. And then slowly, slowly slide that foot back down to the ground, stepping out of the strap. And we might, again, while standing, take the strap up and overhead and cycle that strap slowly, slowly backwards. Now, it doesn't have to come all the way down. You might just find, we'll call it a sweet spot, a spot where, that's an area of interest. And we'll rise back up. Feel free to bring the arms down or just widen the hands and perhaps bend the elbows, drawing the strap behind the back. Bring it back up, tip, lean to one side. And perhaps we sweep the strap a little further back. Find the strap overhead, lift, fan the toes. Tip it to the other side, you've released the toes. Maybe we're navigating that strap a little further back. Bring it back up. Let the strap come forward. Give yourself a moment, releasing the strap off to the side. A little movement, maybe through the shoulders, through the wrists. So we're going to bring ourselves back down to the ground, and you have those seat options. Maybe we're practicing that kneel. Maybe we're tucking the feet back. Maybe we're putting rolls underneath the ankles. And we may open the elbows towards cactus. Draw the pinkies towards one another, curling the digits in, rounding the back cat pose. And then open it up. The elbows may move closer to one another on the back. And let's repeat rounding. One more time, go for the back bend. And let's bring it up to the middle and take the left arm on top of the right. Find your embrace. Maybe there's a little sway. It doesn't have to become anything else. We might sit up taller. Maybe the backs of the hands connect or fingerprints to opposite palms. The elbows may rise. Forearms may move forward. Maybe the elbows travel to the right and the chin to the left, and the head may nod. The elbows may be sinking. Maybe it feels good to let them sink. Maybe we don't realize we're doing it. So we can always explore, where's the sweet spot here? We'll open back up at center, trading elbows on top, right arm on top. Maybe a little shift, tips side to side, backs of the hands may connect, fingerprints to opposite palm. It's an option. Elbows may rise, forearms forward. Perhaps the elbows travel over towards the left, chin to the right, maybe head nodding. Are the elbows sinking deliberately, unintentionally? Moving back perhaps to the middle. Maybe we're exploring a little different motion to get exactly where we need it for now. And letting it go, unwind, circle it out. We may grab the fingers of one hand, press the heel of the hand forward. Maybe we decide to put the hand on the thigh, letting it go. Second side, pressing out, reaching out through the heel of the hand. Perhaps the hand lands on the thigh, letting it go. So you might want a pillow for the head. It could be your block. We're sliding out of that kneeling seat and coming down onto the side body. You may want some cushion for the hip for side lying. So we'll bring ourselves down, and maybe your arm is a sufficient cushion, or maybe we're finding the block. And we'll pull the top knee, whichever leg is on top, in towards the chest, dorsiflex the ankle, press that foot forward, and then sweep that heel back, 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 back. Start to point the foot, pull the heel in like you're going to kick yourself in the cheek. Very slow motion pedal. And next time the foot is back, go ahead and grab the foot, roll the head of the shoulder back. Try to keep the knee pointing forward, not up to the ceiling. So if your knee's winging up to the ceiling, maybe we back it off a little bit, hug that inner knee down towards the ground. And then release that, let that go. Bring the knees together for a moment, resting. So please know that you can come back to this. Feel free to just roll over onto your back to get to the other side. I'm going to keep facing you, so I'm going to come up to the seat and flip to the other side. So we'll pull whichever knee is the top knee in towards the chest. Dorsiflex that ankle. Press out through the foot and sweep that heel slowly, slowly backwards. Start to point the foot. Pull the knee up and in. Press out through the foot. Sweeping, sweeping back. Point the foot. Maybe we're grabbing the top of the foot. Hugging the heel. Rolling the head of the shoulder back. And releasing. So we'll bring both those knees together. And remember, you can return to this. You can stay on your side. You don't have to go anywhere else. We might pinwheel those legs and come up to a seat. Now, if we are using blocks, remember how the top of those ankles fell. Do you want to roll something up to put underneath the front of that foot? Possibly. Maybe you want your block stacked higher. So we may put that block under our seat, keep the right foot where it is, left foot is forward. And then remember the rocking chair on our sits bones. We're finding a spot that feels neutral to begin on the sits bones. And maybe neutral sits bones is not neutral thigh and neutral ankle. You can stay here. If it's pretty neutral, we might take the hands back, slide the cheeks forward. So now we have that rounding in the back and possibly a whole lot more stretch sensation in the front of that right thigh. And we might be on our hands, on our knuckles. Where's the right knee? Is it winging to the right? Try to keep that right knee straight ahead and the right shin connected with the ground. Maybe we're tipping back a little further. We might add in a little nod of the head just to notice what that does to the stretch sensation, the tensioning sensations. We're breathing. And remember, you have the option to come back onto your side. We'll rise up and we'll untuck. Let that right foot slide out so that we can navigate the left foot back. So take a few moments. If we can find a neutral point here, find that neutral point. Maybe we're adding height. Maybe we're coming down onto the side body. Perhaps we're moving the hands back if it's neutral. Lift the hips, tuck the seat. Ooh. Try to press that left shin down. Hug that inner left leg in towards midline. Breathe. Maybe there's a little movement, a little nod of the head. Ooh. If these are the perfect spots, you can, of course, stay here. You can come back onto your side. There might be plenty going on. Let's rise back up, untuck. Please feel free to let both feet come out. So we are heading into what might be a restorative pose, but for a lot of us, it is in no way restorative. So I'm going to ask you to pick the variation that feels the most easeful for your body. And maybe you're going to try this out and figure out if it is easeful today. Maybe you know it, no way, it absolutely is not. So I recommend a bolster on an incline if you have one. So that would be 2 blocks for added sturdiness. The far block being taller than the near block. And maybe you want to go for the absolute tallest setting to start with. And we'll put that bolster on its incline. So we've got a little slope there. And you may want to start out sitting on something as well. So I know not everyone has 3 blocks nearby, but it could be a cushion. But you might decide, okay, I'm going to sit up on something to try this out. You're listening to your knees. Maybe you know it's totally fine for you to come to a kneeling seat without sitting on a prop. So we might bring ourselves with that right leg back, hold on to the bolster, and carefully tip back. Now we have a lot of factors going on here. If we're on the incline with the bolster, it's possibly a really big stretch in the chest, the arms, the shoulders, draping the arms down to the ground. So we could always put props under the arms, raise the ground up, or we could decide to put the fingers, tuck the fingers into the armpits, forearms crisscrossed. And maybe this is good. Maybe the top of that foot is just like, no way, or the thigh. Not a restful position, that's okay. Come on up out of it. I'm going to go through each side just for those that might be liking this. And now maybe it's just a matter of putting a little more padding underneath the top of the foot. So you may bend that left knee, have the right foot grounded, carefully tipping back, find your spot. Resting. Please know that you can stay here if it is your practice to kneel and have both feet back at the same time. We may be tipping back, resting here. Again, maybe absolutely not restful for you. So remember, you always have options. Those earlier variations we did, or you could say, nope, that's enough for now, and my feet would like a little support after all of that. So we can open our blanket up, and you can do it longer than I'm going to do it. You can go the other way with the blanket. I'm just opening it up the way it was easiest and starting to roll it up. So I have a little bit of length. And then I'm going to take that roll either the soles of your feet together or feet crisscrossed. Take the roll around your ankles. I think I like soles of the feet together. And bring the blanket underneath your thigh, underneath your knees. If you go the other way, the blanket is longer. You can always add blocks in there as well. Draping in, settling into your position of rest for these next few minutes. Full deep inhale. Slow, sighing, long exhales. Smoothing the brow. Let the eyes rest. Let the cheeks drape. Teeth are parted. Lips parted. Sighing, releasing. Letting go of any gripping at the base of the skull. Shoulders heavy. Letting the belly unwind. Perhaps the breath is beginning to deepen. We may be brushing thumbs across the other fingerprints. We may bend the elbows to bring bolder movements into the fingers, circling the wrists. We may reach down and heel toe the feet wider and bring the knees to reach the sky if we were in the bound or cross-legged position. Consider connecting the palms, rubbing the hands together, hovering the hands before closed eyes. Take a deep inhale, letting it go. We may rub the hands together, place them over the heart, full breath, letting it go. One more time, rubbing the hands together, place them on the belly, deep inhale, sighing it out. Supporting yourself to a seat. And as we find that seat, reconnecting the palms, we may be sealing our practice with sound. You are welcome to join me singing the sound Om. You are welcome to hum or sing any sound that vibrates for you. Rubbing the hands together, placing a hand to the belly, a hand to the heart, deep inhale. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this practice.